Integrity Commission has ruled that the former Member of Parliament for Central Westmoreland, the PNP's Dwayne Vaz, be charged for breaching Section 43(1)(b) of the Integrity Commission Act. Dwayne Vaz will join us this evening to say why his hands are clean. And later on in the show, after a lot of chatter around the issue, Juliet Holness, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, has shared the opinion given to her by the Legislative Council and the Attorney General concerning how reports tabled by the Attorney General and those tabled by the Integrity Commission ought properly to be treated. You don't want to miss Lead Story this evening. Let's get on with the show. Lead Story here on CVM TV. My name is George Davis. Now, Dwayne Vaz, the former Member of Parliament for Central Westmoreland, is the PNP's caretaker in the constituency. Recall that Dwayne Vaz was voted into office December 1, 2014, winning a by-election following the death of the Minister of Agriculture, Roger Clark. He won, you can say, his own full mandate at the 2016 elections when he beat the JLP's Faye Jacobs. In 2020, not so lucky, he lost out to the JLP's George Wright, but he has maintained a presence in the constituency for the PNP. Now, the Integrity Commission wrote a letter to the Speaker of the House of Representatives and to the President of the Senate, Juliet Holness, the Speaker, and Tom Tavares, Prince of the Senate President, to say that the letter concerned an indicative ruling concerning investigations into allegations that Dwayne Vaz failed to provide information requested by the Commission in respect of statutory declarations for the period ending December 31, 2019. The letter went on to say that the Commission's, meaning the Integrity Commission's Director of Corruption Prosecution, pursuant to the provisions of Sections 34(1)(a) and 34(1)(b) of the Integrity Commission Act, has reviewed the report and, upon careful determination and consideration, has determined that Mr. Vaz should be charged for breach of Section 43(1)(b) of the Integrity Commission Act for failure to provide information required by the Director of Information and Complaints. Now, this news item jolted the news cycle not so long ago. It is fresh, hot off the press, and we decided to pursue it here on Lead Story. And who better to give perspective on the matter than the man at the center of this issue. Dwayne Vaz joins us via Zoom. Good evening.
Good evening, George, and good evening to all listeners. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Why has the Integrity Commission published this report, shared it with the Parliament, regarding you and your alleged breach of the Integrity Commission Act?
Well, why they published, I'm clueless as to why they published. I'm just as confused as a lot of people are. But as you would have seen in my statements, I've clarified what has happened. I'll show the chronological order in where things have happened. So what they're charging me for is not to submit documents which I have submitted and which I have a letter from the Integrity Commission proving that I did submit these documents. So what I thought... Hold
on, Mr. Vaz. Let's walk carefully so the listeners, the viewers rather, can understand where we are. So you were engaged in a process with the Integrity Commission around your filings for the 2019 period. You said you were asked for additional information. You're saying you provided that?
Yes, I provided that. And that was cleared with the Integrity Commission, and I have the letter to prove that.
Right. So the fact of the additional information that you needed to provide, you have correspondence from the Commission acknowledging that you had satisfied the request for additional information?
Yes, I have that correspondence.
When was that correspondence dated?
May 18, 2021.
And you have that letter, that physical copy of the letter?
I have a physical copy of that letter.
All right. What then would have given? Well, if you have that copy, can you hold it up for the benefit of the viewers? Do you have it in front of you?
I have it in front of me, but I have it. You
have it electronically. Very well. Never mind. All right. So then, given that you were asked for information, did you give it in a timely manner, or did the Commission have to wait on you to get the information together?
The initial, when I filed in 2020, for the 2019 period. There were some outstanding documents that they asked for. For circumstances outside of my control, the documents were submitted late, and I was in constant communication with them with regards to that. And after submitting that, I did receive a letter from them, a notice from them actually, stating that I must submit or pay a fine. I must submit in 21 days. I submitted about 2 weeks after that 21 days period went, to be honest with you. But after submitting, then I received a letter on May 18 stating that everything has been duly filed and that everything is okay. So that's why 3 years later, I'm surprised that I got a summons earlier in March. I actually went to court the 9th of April, and on that court date, the statement showing what I was charged for was I could not plead because I was not guilty for that. Because basically they're charging for not filing the documents, and as I said, I have proof that I filed the documents. So that is the confusion that is there.
Hold on. All right. You have something else to clarify. You said that they notified you that you would be fined. Did you pay a fine?
No. When I got the notification, it said to submit the documents within a particular period of time.
Yes.
Or you have to pay that particular fine. As I said, I submitted the documents, but it was outside of that period.
Right. So that means the fine kicks in. The fine kicks in because you missed the deadline. Yes.
The fine kicks in. So I did actually, after getting that letter on May 18, though, probably wrongfully assuming, I thought that I did not have to pay that fine again. So, and then not hearing from them in 3 years, as I said, I was very surprised when I got that particular notification, no, that I must go to court. But what I'm saying is that I actually thought they were charging me for not paying the money. But what the charge is saying is that I'm being charged for not submitting documents, which I did. So I cannot plead guilty for something that I know I'm not wrong for, because I did submit the documents. Although late, I did submit the documents. So that is where the discrepancy is.
All right. So you were notified that you would be fined. You didn't get any notification about the fine for 3 years, despite you submitting clearly after the deadline date. So when you were notified that you were to appear in court, you believed that it was to deal with the fine. But when you got to court, it wasn't to treat with the fine. It was to treat with the original charge of not submitting documents at all.
Exactly.
All right.
Which I did submit.
All right. Did you submit to the court that March 2021 letter from the Integrity Commission acknowledging that you had satisfied their demand for the documentation?
I did. And the lawyers for the Integrity Commission at the time stated that they did not have a copy of the letter. So we provided them with a copy of the letter. And that is when they decided that they have to go back and look at it. And we had, after consultation with my lawyer and their lawyer, we decided that we would go back to court on the 30th of April.
All right. So we have up on screen here the Integrity Commission's letter, May 18, 2021, with your address and everything there. And it says the Commission certifies that your declarations as at December 31, 2019 has been examined. Based on the examination, which does not constitute an audit, it appears the declaration has been duly completed in accordance with the provisions of the Integrity Commission Act. So crucially now, Mr. Vaz, you have to explain for the viewers, why with this correspondence, a genuine piece of correspondence, and why after your lawyers shared it with the Integrity Commission's lawyer, who you say did not have this in their body of documents when they went to court, why are you in this position today?
Well, that is what I'm wondering. I'm wondering why I'm in this position today. I'm wondering why that was tabled today, given that false type of information. It's very sad that after those discussions were had, it's very sad that after we actually went to court and they know the information, to have this come out today is very surprising. But as I said, my intention is to clear my name by telling the truth, by putting the facts on the table, and letting everybody understand what happened throughout that period.
All right. Critically, the letter you say was shared between shared by your attorneys with the Integrity Commission's attorneys, but was it put as part of the body of information in front of the court? Was that formally tabled in the court documents?
To be honest with you, when the judge asked when it was brought forward, the judge asked for it and it was shown, but I really can't tell you if it was formally put in. Because at that point in time, when the other lawyers decided that, when they said they didn't, it's the first they're seeing that letter. They also said they have additional information. So my lawyer asked to see the additional information. So what happens is that the judge decided that both parties review those additional documents and then we can return on the 30th of April.
So that's what that April 30 court date is to do, to just resolve the documentation.
It's another mention date.
Right.
It's another
Who signed the Integrity Commission letter of March 2021?
Beresford.
Craig Beresford.
Beresford. I don't remember the last name, but it's Beresford.
Beresford is the last name. The first name would be Craig. Craig Beresford.
Craig Beresford.
So Craig Beresford's name is there and the signature is there. So it's an authentic letter as far as you're concerned.
It is. I know it is.
And the Integrity Commission's lawyers have not raised a question about the authenticity of the letter.
No, they didn't.
Good. So your message to those, well, I can't call them your constituents anymore, but your people in Central Westmoreland, people who have an affection for the PNP and Jamaicans broadly, your message to them this afternoon, having read what the Integrity Commission said about you, is what? What's your message to them?
Well, first of all, I have always, every single time, tried to comply with whatever rules and regulations, not only from the Integrity Commission, but in Jamaica as a whole. It was my fault. I have to take responsibility for not filing on time. As I said at the time, it was circumstances beyond my control. But my message to everyone out there is to ensure whatever you're doing, you cross the I's and you dot the T's. You cross the T's and you dot the I's, I must say. Please ensure you keep your documentation in place. So if you need it as proof to clear your name at any point in time, you will always have that. I am disheartened to know that it has gotten to this place where I have to be defending myself, but actually clearing my name is something of priority. And I want to let everybody know I am still that same person who you know has integrity and is of good character.
And what of the fine? Because that is still hanging, because there is no argument that you missed the deadline date for the submission of the documents. Does the fine still hang over your head?
I'm not sure, but if the fine is to be paid, it will be paid. I actually went to court to pay the fine on the 9th of April. But when I realized I was charged for something else. That is when we realized I could not plead because I can't plead guilty for something that I did not do.
In the 3 years between that March 2021 letter from the Integrity Commission and this development, are you sure there is no correspondence from the Commission that you may have missed?
I'm sure. There was no correspondence since that date. That was the last correspondence between myself and the Integrity Commission until recently.
And do you believe that this matter needs another court date to resolve, given that it appears to be straightforward? Can't the Commission, can't your attorneys get in touch with the Commission directly, the people acting on your behalf, to say, well, with this in hand, why are we even bothering with a court process?
Well, that is what is actually being done. And that is why I'm really surprised that this came out today, because my lawyer is in contact with them, and we're trying to find the best solution and the easiest solution possible to this situation.
So the message this evening is that Dwayne Vaz is not a corrupt individual?
Definitely not. Dwayne Vaz is a straightforward and good character individual that you all know.
Hear you on that, Mr. Vaz. Good luck, all the best. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Dwayne Vaz, the former Member of Parliament for Central Westmoreland, the man who is the PNP's caretaker in the constituency. He says he really has no case to answer because he has the document in hand to prove that the issue which caused him to run afoul of the Integrity Commission, that issue was neutralized by virtue of a letter, March 2021, which the Commission in it said that you have satisfied the requirements for submission. So he says he doesn't know why he's in this position, but his lawyers are trying to work to clear up all the issues. We take a break. When we come back, we talk about the documents tabled in the the documents presented in the Parliament today from the House Speaker, sharing the advice given to her by the Legislative Council and the Attorney General about how to treat with reports from the Integrity Commission and from the Auditor General's Department.
Mindset Conference 2024, the Gospel Edition, Monday to Wednesday, May 20 to 22, at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel with Pastor John Gray, Pastor Travis Green, Dr. Jackie Green, Todd Galbert, Phil Thomas, Minister Marion Hall, Kevin Dowswell, Sharon Gardner, Rhoda Isabella, Pastor Junior Tucker, Bishop Everton Thomas, and many more. Join us for dinner, workshop, panel discussions, praise and worship, undiluted word, and concerts every night. Mindset Conference. For more info, mindsetconference.org. Get your tickets now.
We're in Portland today. I'm trying to find Mac's funeral home. Tavia. I'm trying to find Tavia. She's, I think, a mortician from a funeral home.
This is her.
No, ma'am, I'm looking for a mortician.
This is her.
All right.
The owner, mortician, embalmer, restorative artist.
Not to lie. Why you have them said, all right, be signed, let me there. I mean, I said, no. And I said, Lord, cover me.
Welcome back to Lead Story. Now, after much hue and cry, the House Speaker, Juliet Holness, has shared the advice given to her from the Legislative Council and from the Attorney General concerning the treatment of reports submitted by the Integrity Commission and the Auditor General's Department. Recall that there was a ruling, a position adopted by the previous House Speaker, Marissa Dalrymple-Philibert, about how such reports ought to be treated. The opposition wasn't having it, and Juliet Holness's declaration about how the Auditor General's reports should be treated, which of course caused her to become in conflict with the previous clerk to the Houses of Parliament, Ms. Valerie Curtis, rubbed many people the wrong way, and the opposition was quite strident that the advice ought to be shared so that there could be a better understanding of what had put the Speaker into making a decision they felt was not in keeping with the best practices of the Parliament. Now, the Legislative Council's advice concerning the treatment of reports from the Auditor General's Department, not a lengthy document, a 7-page document that was shared today in the Parliament. And I just want to highlight certain aspects of what the Legislative Council said for you. So, in the conclusion of the document, we don't have that graphic as yet. So I'm just going to go straight to my guests. Professor Paul Bourne. He is the lecturer, or a lecturer at the Vocational Training Development Institute, VTDI, and Professor Canute Thompson, Educational Policy Planning and Leadership is what's under his thumb at the University of the West Indies. Dr. Bourne, Professor Thompson, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me.
All right. Professor Thompson, let me start with you first. Juliet Holness has relented. She has shared the documents that all and sundry have been calling for. Do the documents, by your reading, support the position that she took originally regarding how the reports from the Attorney General's Department and the Integrity Commission ought to be handled when sent to Parliament?
I think not. Let's start with the one from concerning the Auditor General. The opinion from the Auditor General, or the signature of the Solicitor General, Ms. Aldred, indicates that the Auditor General may submit reports either under Section 29 or Section 30 of the FAA Act. And if under Section 29, she may send it directly, and it should be tabled immediately. The Attorney General opines that if it's being submitted under Section 30, then it should first be sent to the relevant minister and be tabled no more than 2 months later. The difficulty with that is that as a standard operating procedure, the Auditor General, once it conducts an audit of a department, will routinely provide the relevant department with a draft of the report to give the department an opportunity to respond to issues that are raised, and only after the time has been exhausted for their response, whether or not received, then the Auditor General would submit the report to Parliament. So no report is submitted to Parliament under Section 30, as I understand it, without the relevant department having had an opportunity to respond.
But Professor Thompson, isn't this what our friends who are legally trained, legal professionals would call lacunas? Because as the Legislative Council pointed out in her note to both Ms. Curtis and Mrs. Holness, there is no hard and fast step-by-step approach as to how to treat with them. Therefore, it is open to interpretation to the extent that she has recommended amendments to the standing orders which would standardize how these things are treated.
Correct. Okay, so that as I understand is in relation to the letter, the opinion on the IC reports. But on the question of the Auditor General reports, what the AG has proposed is that the Auditor General indicates to the Speaker whether the report is being submitted under Section 29 or Section 30. I find that requirement or that advice somewhat strenuous, because the fact is that whether you're talking about the National Housing Trust Act, the NEPA Act, or any other piece of legislation, as the letter pointed out, the Auditor General has unlimited latitude to audit any entity and to submit a report to Parliament.
Except her own department. You are correct, yes.
Except her own department, right. Yes. So to then suggest that she should state that this is being submitted under Section 29 or Section 30, I think is redundant. What I think is the overriding position is that the Auditor General has this authority, and pursuant to that authority, she submits a report. And as I said, it is standard operating procedure that when you do a performance audit in particular, when the Auditor General does a performance audit on any department, the department has an opportunity to respond to her findings and conclusions before they're published.
All right, here's the thing. I want to read this the recommendation from the Attorney General. He says, I did not receive instructions regarding this issue, but I suggest the following. One, if it is not being done now, when the Auditor General submits reports, the Auditor General should make it clear under which section of the FAA, Financial Administration and Audit Act, she's submitting the report. And two, if the Speaker receives a report from the Auditor General and it is not clear whether the Auditor General has acted under Section 29 or 30 of the legislation, the Speaker should make an inquiry of the Auditor General to clarify the issue. When the Auditor General provides that clarification, the Speaker should act accordingly. So I ask you then, Professor Thompson, by these words in black and white from the Attorney General, what is the misinterpretation that Mrs. Holness would have applied to what was recommended to her that has caused so much angst in the intervening period?
So yes, let us concede that the Auditor General did say that did recommend that a report being submitted should have an indication as
the Attorney General recommended that, yes.
Yes, as to whether it's Section 29 or Section 30.
Yes.
However, the submission of the report is being done under a particular heading, and I'm saying, while the Speaker is at liberty to draw on that guidance from the Attorney General, now that guidance is out, I think we should be interrogating that guidance, because I am of the view that to require the Auditor General, yes, who has this broad authority to submit reports,
yes, to
specify whether she's doing so under one or the other heading, I think is unnecessarily strenuous.
Hear you on that. Let me bring in Dr. Paul Bourne, who's with us on the phone. Dr. Bourne, isn't then the issue not with how Juliet Holness has interpreted the recommendations given to her, but with the recommendations themselves?
I looked extensively at what was actually sent to me, and I'm trying to understand how she could have misinterpreted, because it's clear to me, having read the thing, that she, even though there is no administrative procedure in terms of how it should have been done, clearly there's a timeline. And because there's a timeline, I'm concerned how she could have misinterpreted issues within the context of the timeline. Because it's either immediately or 2 months after. So how she could have misinterpreted but gone out of that timeline, that is where I'm having a challenge.
Hold on, Dr. Bourne. You are saying that she has misinterpreted the advice that she's been given by the Legislative Council and the Attorney General?
It's clear to me that she misinterpreted the advice that she got. Because there's a clear timeline. And there's the maximum time that she had would have been 2 months. So how she could have looked at a recommendation and misread that recommendation for gone out of a timeline of 2 months. That is where I'm having a challenge.
No, but hold on. When you say misinterpreted, you've thrown me there, because if we're to follow the line that Professor Thompson has gone and what is in writing, the recommendation was what form the request for clarity from the Auditor General should take. There's not much issue around the treatment of the reports of the Integrity Commission. So the Attorney General and the Legislative Council are saying there is no hard and fast rule that has been broken. We have made these recommendations, and based on what the Speaker has set down, there's no variance. We can't say that there's variance between what the Speaker has done with what the advice that she's been given. So I'm kind of surprised that you're saying that she misinterpreted the advice.
You're really asked an extremely good question, but it's clear to me that there's some gray area here.
I can agree with you on that there are gray areas, which is why the Attorney General and the Legislative Council have recommended, especially the Legislative Council, have recommended amendments to the standing orders to eliminate these gray areas, to make these areas red, the primary colors, or black and white, so that it is clear.
I'm somewhat confused, because my thing is, even though I'm assuming that the recommendation would have been actually spoken to her in unambiguous terms, all right? And even within the gray areas, there ought to have been some dialogue. She would have asked questions, and as a result of asking questions, should have gotten clarity and clarification